What's up, guys? It's your boy Josh Showtime, along with my man's 100 grand, Josh Valles, and this is Showtime Fight Phone. We talk all things fights. Now, today, we are dropping a very important, big time drop, which is about the development and the results of a big fight that we said would be competitive, but we had no idea it was going to be what it was. And that is Lamont Roach Jr. versus Gervonta Tank Davis. I already said this before. PG County versus Baltimore. We had the daggone Nike Boost versus Butters. It was Mumbo Sauce versus Crab Cakes. Go Go versus Baltimore Music. It was everything that you needed in a boxing match, especially after round 6. First and foremost, what did you think of the fight overall and the results after the fight? Please tell me.
Yeah, the fight overall, I will say that this was a good fight. I mean, this was a great scrap. I thought there were competitive moments. I thought there were some not, some action moments, but you were anticipating something. I thought there was a lot of suspense too, because we were just waiting for like a Tank, knockout punch. There was a lot that was going on in this fight. I think as a boxing purist, somebody that knew what was going on as far as like the way they were fighting each other, I enjoyed it. I think as a casual, again, you were there looking for the Tank knockout, right? So with that being said, I thought it was a good fight. Afterwards, I mean, I'm not crazy about a draw. I'm not really upset about it, but I did think Lamont Roach was able to win that fight 115-113,
Hmm.
even without the controversial knee. Even without that knee,
Oh, wow. Even
it took
without the knee, you give it to him.
at least one round. Yeah, I give him one round because what a lot of people don't, what a lot of people forget about is that Tank has been a notorious slow starter and he knocks his opponents out. So a lot of people, when they watch Tank fight, aren't really thinking about the early rounds. But if you think about the early rounds, Tank didn't do anything for 3 rounds to start this fight. So in those 3 rounds, that adds up to the rest of the fight. You can call them fill it out rounds all you want, but judges are scoring those rounds. And I think that Lamont took those rounds enough to take the fight.
It's very interesting that you say that because simple and plain, they a lot of the judges and also people actually had Gervonta winning a lot of the first half of the fight. My overall opinion of the fight was that I think the first round was, I mean, the first round, I thought it started off extremely slow. And, but at the end of the day, once again, it's knowing who's fighting and understanding how this goes. Once again, Tank is, like you said, a notorious slow fighter, but I also mentioned this several times before. Regardless, his punch count is low. He doesn't have a high punch count. So that already tells you what type of fighter he is. He's not that active, period. That's just not really his game. I'm gonna just be accurate and my punches hurt. So once they land, they count. That's the type of fighter boxer he is. If you just want to break it down and just being dumb. But Lamont did something super smart. And it wasn't what we talked about, which is he made Tank lead. The first half of the fight, he made Tank lead, and it frustrated Tank. Tank didn't really seem, I'm not gonna say he didn't seem comfortable, but he just really didn't seem like he was all the way there, like he was really into it. Because you can get, like we said, the first six rounds, much wasn't happening. A lot of feinting, a lot of just one punch, two punches. It really wasn't too much going on. You can kind of get a little bored, restless, even in the midst of the fight, especially being a person like Tank, who's very confident, who doesn't really worry too much about Lamont's power, even though he did get wobbled eventually. So it's easy to kind of rest a little bit, become restless, and I felt like that a little bit. That's kind of happened. Now, as far as the scoring goes, I was cool with it either way. I was cool if you gave it 115, 113 Tank, and I was cool if you would have gave it to Lamont. We'll talk about the foul in a little bit. However, the fight being a draw, I understood. I obviously don't respect it because of the, the neat knockdown. However, at the same time, the judges can't, correct the ref, and they can't correct the New York State Athletic Commission, who also dropped the ball. Like, all that was just an absolute mess. So they had to score it the way they scored it. But I'm just so impressed with Lamont. Like, one, I disrespected him. We both kind of did. We both had him getting knocked out. He didn't get knocked out. He also was the bigger of the two. I would have never guessed that. I mean, we've mentioned before how Tank is genuinely not a big 135 pounder. He just doesn't want to cut the 130. At the same time, we've seen he's gotten smaller and smaller, especially since he's been taking boxing more serious, his nutrition more serious. He's gotten smaller, and that's once again why I wanted the Inoue fight, because I'm like, Tank's not that big, and Inoue is big for his weight. So, but that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. Obviously, you struggling with Lamont. We don't even know how the Inoue thing gonna go. But Lamont looked big in there. Lamont was very, very confident. And he was rolling with those punches. Like, whenever Gervonta was throwing those bombs, they never landed clean. They just didn't. He was there. High guard. He made sure his shots were short, crisp, and he stood there. He wasn't scared. He wasn't backing down. He didn't do what Frank Martin did. I'm not saying Frank Martin was scared. However, he definitely was getting backed down by Tank. Lamont was like, I'm standing 10 toes down. You fire, I'm firing too. And the craziest thing is that Lamont was firing the bigger shots. That's the crazy thing about this fight. The biggest blow is what? That straight right that caught Tank, that wobbled him, and it was like, whoa, we gotta fight.
Listen, I'm telling you right now, there were shots where, again, there is no disrespect to Lamont Roach's power. He's a grown man. I get that. But there were times where I said to myself, if this was Tank landing these shots on Tank, or someone of Tank's power
Even
landing
Teofimo Lopez, it could have been.
a Teofimo Lopez, I really think that Tank could have been put down this fight even without the hair grease.
Oh,
He
for
was
sure.
getting clipped by Lamont Roach, a lower weight opponent
Who's not known.
who's not known. And again, if this was somebody with Tank's power, we might be talking about a knockout, because Lamont came to fight. I was very impressed with his defense towards Gervonta Davis. He was on the phone the whole fight, blocked all his left hand shots, and even his corner was saying, "Hey, Gervonta only has a left hand. That's it."
Yep.
And sure enough, that was the one punch that didn't really get through to Lamont at all in the fight. So kudos to Lamont, and this is the blessing and the curse of fighting somebody that you sparred with 100 times, like Lamont and Tank have, that you know from the amateurs, because
Y'all know since y'all was kids.
exactly. So either you know their antics and you're gonna watch them. For example, Tank. Like, I know this guy, I'm gonna beat him up. I've sparred him 100 times. Or in Lamont's area, hey, I've sparred this guy 100 times. I've taken his power 100 times. Yeah, I was with maybe a couple ounces bigger gloves. Maybe we had headgear on, but I mean, I'm still a world champion boxer. So I think Lamont came to fight, and I think this is one of those fights that we hope to see again. But if we don't, it'll always be a controversy.
To the point of the defense too. The one thing I will say Gervonta was doing, and I think Gervonta boxed pretty well. I will say that Gervonta was landing some good body shots, and Lamont was still walking forward. Like, there was one time, I can't remember the round specifically, but I remember Gervonta landed a really good body shot, and I felt like Lamont caved a little bit. However, he just with that mentality just thugged it out and still continued to throw with it. It just showed me he was locked in. And to your point of knowing each other, this kind of also goes back to the Devin and Ryan thing. Whereas Devin is a much better boxer than Ryan Garcia. Like, I don't think that's really disputable. He is better. However, that familiarity, knowing each other since they were kids, they had 6 amateur bouts together. They fought each other so many times. They know each other. They know each other's weaknesses. That can breed confidence into one of the two. which obviously showed to be Ryan. This could be the same exact thing. Yes, Tank beat him in the amateurs. However, like you just said, that was decades ago. I still know what he does. I've tasted his power. It's not that bad. Also, I know this dude personally. I'm not intimidated by him. Like the number one thing that I love, especially in the first half of the fight, happened in the later half too, is that one thing about the DMV, you already know exactly. One thing about the DMV, if you ever been there, is that we talk trash 24/7. That is like a love language. Like that it's just natural. Like if we're not talking trash to you, we probably don't even like you. That's how it is. So, and I already told you, but we already talked about this in the last episode where DC and DCPG versus Baltimore is a rivalry. You saw that when they were just talking to each other, and Lamont was literally talking so much junk in the midst of the fight. Like, bro, I'm not scared of you. Like, I don't care. You gonna talk? I'm gonna talk. Like when Tank tried to shoulder check him, what happened? Lamont caught him, and also, and it wasn't a little shot too. Tank sounded like, oh, well, just just punch me in the jaw. Like these PG dudes are different. We talk trash, but at the end of the day, there's no fear, and there was no fear at all in this bout, and you saw that with Lamont. Lamont overreached what anybody thought was possible. I've already said the only reason why I slept on him was strictly because he had his I'm sorry. The only reason why is strictly because he was the smaller guy. I just don't trust a person that's coming from 130 to be able to eat a 135-pounder shot. I just didn't think that not a 130 Tank's shots, because I've already said this before. I think that Tank can knock out a 47-pounder. That's how hard he punches. I thought that would be I definitely didn't think a 130-pounder could do it. Turns out Lamont could, but at the same time, he didn't open himself up enough, and he was rolling with the shots that were devastating to the point that he never was caught clean. But it still was just a really impressive performance from Lamont, and I thought he stepped up his game so much because he knew he had to in order to win.
Yeah, this was his first main event pay-per-view fight, and so he definitely showed out for himself and the DMV. My thing to Lamont and your 130-pound remark is, I feel like my discredit, and I'll admit I had Lamont getting knocked out by the 11th, was not because I didn't think Lamont had the skill. I just didn't know if he had, based on his resume, I didn't know he had the power to hold off a Tank coming forward. And like I said already in the beginning of the show, I think Tank would have probably took a few more steps back had Roach had a little bit more power, because he was getting hit with those clean shots. So I think that I was discrediting Lamont really because of the lack of power, but we're still, to your point, talking about a 130 world champion boxer. Yes, he's coming up in weight, but if he was coming up in weight with, let's say, 20 wins and 22 knockouts, we might be having a different discussion. But I had to give the discredit a little bit because of just the lack of knockouts previously, going up against, the knockout guy artist in Gervonta Davis. So it was one of those moments where I said to myself, every time I saw him land, I was like, oh my gosh, if he just had a little bit more power, what this fight could be.
Yeah, man, and I'm with you on that. Now we got to talk about it. It's the biggest one. It's the biggest topic right now that we got to talk about, which is the knockdown. All right, so I think universally, and for everybody who actually knows boxing, is all saying the same thing, which is simple and plain. It should have counted. It should have been a 10-8, and we all know that 10-8 in this fight automatically makes Lamont the winner. How does this happen? I think that's the biggest conversation to have, is you can't show blatant favoritism in boxing. Yes, he's the A side. The A side privileges is money. You come out last, and whatever fixings you want, aka the ring size, whoever you want to come out to your music, your gloves, like all those things you have say over. What you don't have say over is how the fight actually goes, how it's judged, how it's dictated. You don't control any of that. And it felt like, and this isn't Gervonta's fault because it's not Gervonta who made that decision. Gervonta only messed up by obviously doing the knee and going to his corner, but it's the referee's responsibility to enforce the rules of, brother, this is not a sparring match. This is a legit boxing match. You can't take things into your own hand, take a knee, a timeout basically, run to your corner, get wiped down, and then say, oh yeah, we back at it. Brother, no. What world are you in? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I think that Steve Willis, who was the referee, I think dropped the ball here 100%. And I'm actually disappointed in Steve Willis because if you know boxing, you know Steve Willis. He's actually one of the more theatrical referees in boxing. And
Yes.
yeah, there's memes about him. It's awesome. Love when he referees fights. He's definitely a part of the show. With that being said, he's Steve Willis. He's been in these fights plenty of times. This ain't his first pay-per-view fight or pay-per-view main event fight. So to your point, he should know better. He should have known that in the midst of an exchange, a fighter takes a knee and then runs through. It was just so bizarre. Again, if I was Tank, if you didn't get hit, if it wasn't something that, why didn't you just say, hold on, put a pause up to Lamont and say, ref, like, can I get a pause for my eye, like something to signify to the ref, I need like a 10-second breather because of some malfunctioning. You took a knee in the midst of an exchange. I mean, it happened within 2 or 3 seconds after, Lamont threw a jab. Who's to say that jab didn't land put? Like, really did it? Not really. If you really watched the replay, but it did kind of land, and Gervonta did blink at it. Could there have been grease involved? Sure. That's fine. I'm actually just disappointed at both Steve Willis just for the whole debacle, allowing that to happen.
Yeah.
Gervonta just, dude, you could just easily be like, whoa. Like,
I didn't really hear that perspective too much about, like, obviously just talking to the ref about it, because you're absolutely right. Fighters do that all the time where they communicate to refs like, hey, he hit me low. Hey, such and such. Hey, something's bothered. Like, they will do that. Granted, everybody's brought up the example of Floyd when he took a knee because he broke his hand, which at the same time, I get taking a knee because breaking your hand, breaking anything, in my opinion, can bring you to your knees. I don't know if you ever broke something, but I broke my ankle. I thought I got shot in the face, and it was my ankle. So, like, I can only imagine, like, in the midst, and yeah, I don't care about adrenaline or anything like that. Breaking a bone is breaking a bone. It hurts. So I can understand that breaking you down to your knees. I don't understand just your eyes are burning. Okay, cool. If anything, I'd imagine you'll back up like, oh, shoot, I can't see. It's burning. And then, like you said, and you can say it's easy to do because, you're not in the situation, it happened last second. But my thing is the initial thought to take a deliberate knee. It's not like it was like he just sat down. He literally took a knee on purpose to stop the action. That in itself is always a standing 8 count. Like, what are we doing here? Like, this, it's so disrespectful to, like, boxing fans and our knowledge of, like, bro, like, we've seen too much of this. You can't just get away with highway robbery. Like, that's crazy. You can't get away with that. And I'm just so sick and tired of you internet trolls, you internet idiots who literally just post stuff and don't fact check anything. And they're just like, oh yeah, this is right. Stop posting fake stuff. It is not up to the referee to determine if you going on the knee was deliberate or this, that, and the third. No, that's not how that works. And also the idiots who post that, oh, Lamont went on the knee. You just exposed that you don't know what you're talking about. You exposed you've never really watched boxing. You don't know the rules. All right. If I clinch you and then you fall down, this isn't wrestling, brother. This is boxing. That don't count. But if for some odd reason you choose to take a knee, Because you want to know why that's a rule. You want to know why a referee can't determine, oh, maybe it was grease in his eye in a split second. You want to know why? Because there's delayed reactions. Because who's to sit here and say that a shot did go through that you don't? Bacoli is a perfect example. A little shot that you would not expect to do any damage. What did it do? It knocked them out. So you cannot sit here and say, "Oh, a punch landed 5 seconds ago." Okay, people have delayed reactions. Who's to say Tank wasn't hurt? You can't determine that as a referee. Oh, yeah, my eyes was burning. You know how many fighters gonna come up with excuses now when they get knocked out? They, I slipped on a banana peel right there. I'm sorry. Like, you can't do that.
Yeah, I again, etiquette is important here, and I'm glad you brought up the point where I think a lot of people are just defending Gervonta, right? But I think this is such a critical point in the fight because of the draw. If this was like just part of the fight, Gervonta won, 8 rounds to 4 or whatever it is, right? And it was a clean shutout. This is not a topic of discussion. This is just like, maybe, XYZ. But because it's a draw, it's like, wait a minute. This guy could have won the fight on a technicality that who's to say it was hair grease? Josh Baez, I've been there before. It does drape into your eyes, like it does burn. Like I have been in that situation, so I give it to Tank. But two things again, it was in the midst of an exchange, and you didn't like think to look at the ref. Like he's like right there, like he's right there. Like I would immediately be like, hey, I can't see right now. Can I wipe my face? And then the ref would do what? Whoa, what's going on? That's what he's in there for, to referee, to observe what's going on. So he wants your best interest. You think a referee is going to be like, oh, your eyes are burning? You'll be all right. You
And
fight.
And
No.
here's to that too. I can't remember the exact fight, but even I remember times that the referee stopped the fight because there was too much grease or Vaseline on people's eye or like right above their eye, and I was like, "Hey, you got to get rid of that," like because obviously it can get into their eyes. Like referees stop fights for any reason. It could be for tape. It could be like they stop fights all the time. So I mean, like you said, mentioning it to him, like, "Hey, like there's grease in my eye. I can't see." I'm if you were already a favorite, they clearly would have gave if he would have did that and the referee would have been like, all right, let him do it. It still probably been controversial, but it would be far less controversial than you taking a deliberate knee, saying, oh yeah, and I've had hair most of my life, and I've just lived it for like 4 years now, being on the ball gang, but I've had my dreads retwisted. I've been an athlete. Obviously, I was wrestling. I've had grease in my eye before. I understand it does burn. It does suck. Like I'm not saying it doesn't. It's a fact. But at the same time, like you said, you just have to talk to the right people and just be like, "Hey, bro, give me a break. Give me a second. I can't see out of my eye." And they might still do an 8 count. They might even disqualify you or might say whatever. But at the same time, it's better than just taking a knee and just, obviously saying what the hell and getting your face wiped. And the next thing you know, we're all like, bro, this is stupid. Like you just play with our intelligence. So like I'm upset about it personally. I know Lamont appealed it, which he very well should. It's very rare for them to overturn it. In reality, I feel like I get why it's hard to overturn like appeals and stuff like that because a lot of it's based off of like, oh, this is like a deliberate robbery because the scoring is bad, but you're also talking about people's opinions. Where in this situation, it's literally not about an opinion; it's about a fact. We know what happened. It's on 4K. There's nothing to dispute the fact that that should have been a 10-8 round. That was a knockdown, and that Lamont should have won this fight. It should be approved, and he should be and new, and Tank should have that L.
Yeah, I do. Like I said, we can talk about the grease, the no grease, the knockdown, blah, blah, blah. Listen, with or without that, I still give it to Lamont Roach. I thought that he stood Tank's best pressure. He had the ring generalship that every fighter needs, in my opinion, to really push the action, win the fight, show that you're in control. there were many times where Tank hit Roach with some shots, and to your credit, you said it earlier. Tank didn't. I mean, Roach didn't go anywhere. Stood right there in the pocket, took some of his shots, may have stopped him from throwing shots right back, but he was still countering. He was still exchanging. I like the way that Roach fought this fight. I thought he edged it out with or without Tank taking a knee.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Now, the last thing we'll talk about with today's discussion is going to be what's next. Should we get a rematch? And do we actually get a rematch? Because those are two totally different questions. So
I
go ahead,
I
Josh.
think, I think we should get a rematch. I think it's fair to Roach to give it to him after, like immediately. But I also say to myself, like, I would love to see Roach fight Shock Foster and do a unification bout at 130, overseeing Roach versus Tank again. I'd rather see Tank versus Shakur or a Keyshawn Davis at this point because it's just a high profile fight. I think that in many times in boxing history, we just have those fights where you say in someone's career, like, I think he lost that fight. And he probably did lose that fight. Floyd has a fight like that against,
Yes, two.
yeah, he has a few fights where people are like, I think he
Madonna, Costello.
yeah, Costello. So, and look, Madonna, they ran it back. So, but Castillo, did they?
Yeah, they ran it right back.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing. You can run these back, but it's just also just like really would love to see a Tank Shakur, Tank Keyshawn, Tank before this Roach rematch. Even though Roach deserves a rematch, but the reason why I said I feel that way is again because he's already a champion at 130. Like we got a 135 pound division, got a 130 division. Like if you're Roach, you got like you're messing up the 135. We just got Keyshawn a belt, Shakur got a belt, Lomachenko got a belt. Now you're in the mix. Like I don't know, but Roach deserves a rematch for sure.
Does he deserve a rematch? Of course. I mean, it's a draw. I mean, nobody won. So of course somebody. So obviously that's automatic. You need to do running back. But do I care to see a rematch right away? No, I don't. I'm being honest with you, I don't. It's a good fight, really good fight. It heated up towards the end. I love the PG versus DC. I said PG versus Baltimore. It's storyline. I loved everything about it. But right now, next, no, no, I'm not. I mean, you can honestly make arguments that Tank wasn't as focused or prepared or whatever it is, even though I don't really agree with that, but you can make that. However, I'm at the stage right now with boxing is I want to get the bang for my buck, man. I want the biggest fights right now. Tank is 30. He is 30 years old right now. Okay? He is literally knee deep in his prime. Probably waist deep in his prime. We need to give him the best fights out here. And this is not the poo poo on Lamont, because I think Lamont deserves the best fights as well after this performance. It just needs to be at 130. Now, if he wants to stay at 135, there's still a bunch of dogs for him. Shoot, fight Keyshawn. Like, I mean, like, I don't, it is what it is. Fight somebody else. Like Lomachenko. I don't really care. But I want to see variety of names, and I want to see Tank fight Shakur. I think that's the fight that needs to be made. Both guys. Funny thing is, you can argue both are at like an all time low right now as far as like the public eye, as far as as boxers. Now, and I'm not saying that people think they're both trash. However, there's a lot of negativity when the thought process of both of them right now. Everybody's thinking negatively about Tank, like, ooh, Tank might not be all that like we thought he was, this, that, and the third. And then you got Shakur. I mean, people who don't like Shakur at all saying he's scared or he runs, he's not entertaining. Like it's all this negativity. So both guys are gonna come in with their stands, but you're gonna have a lot of eyes, a lot of opinions, and it's a big fight. And they both have something to prove. That's the thing about it. This answers all the questions for one of them. So it's a fight that needs to be made. That's a fight that I want to happen. I don't really care right now. Like I would be cool if Shakur and Tank fight, and then we get Roach afterwards. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm saying too. I don't mind seeing Roach get his shot again, but You got some fights to make at 130, brother, that we would love to see. Like I said, against Shock Foster, unification fight. I know the payday is nice with Tank. So if I'm Lamont Roach, I'm pushing for the Tank fight. I'm definitely trying to get that. Me as a fan, I'm good with it later on, kind of like a Triple G Canelo 3.
Yeah, I feel you. Same thing. Same thing. But hey, thank you guys for watching per usual. Make sure you follow us at Josh Fight Form on Twitter or X. It's whichever one you use. I still say Twitter. It is what it is. But make sure you like, subscribe, and comment per usual. Thank you guys for watching. Josh, you got anything to say before we head out?
Our Twitter X is heating up, so follow us back, find us, comment. We got big time boxers reaching out to us. It's been great.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So look, you don't want to miss the wave, but we be out. We see y'all. Peace.